The Echoes of Elaris Part 1. The Awakening, the land of Elaris, had always been a place of mystery, shrouded in myths and legends that whispered through the ancient forests and echoed off the towering mountains. For centuries, the people of Elaris had lived in relative peace, their lives intertwined with the magic that pulsed through the very soil beneath their feet. But that peace was fragile, and beneath the surface of their world, something ancient and powerful stirred. The village of Winwood lay nestled at the edge of the Elbereth forest, a sprawling woodland that stretched for miles in every direction. It was a quiet village, home to simple folk who tended their fields and cared for their livestock, blissfully unaware of the forces that lay hidden in the depths of the forest. But all that was about to change. On the outskirts of Winwood's lawn lived a young woman named Elara. She was different from the other villagers, a fact that had set her apart from a young age. Her mother had died when she was just a child, leaving her to be raised by her father, a reclusive woodsman who spent most of his days deep in the forest. Elara had inherited her father's love of the woods, and she often wandered alone among the ancient trees, finding solace in their quiet strength. But there was more to Elara than her affinity for the forest. She had always felt a strange connection to the magic that permeated Elaris, a connection that she could neither explain nor fully understand. It was as if the magic of the land called to her, whispering secrets that only she could hear. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, Elara ventured deeper into the woods than she had ever gone before. She was drawn by a feeling she couldn't describe, a pull that seemed to guide her steps. The trees grew taller and more ancient as she walked, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, and the air around her grew heavy with the scent of moss and earth. After what felt like hours of walking, Elara found herself in a small clearing. At its center stood a massive stone, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before, and as she approached, she felt a strange energy emanating from it. Her heart raced, and she reached out to touch the stone, her fingers brushing its cool surface. The moment her skin made contact, a jolt of energy shot through her, and the world around her seemed to shift. The forest faded away, replaced by a vast, empty void. Elara stood alone in the darkness, her breath coming in shallow gasps as she tried to make sense of what was happening. "Who are you?" A voice echoed through the void, deep and resonant. Elara spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but there was no one there. I'm Elara," she stammered. "Who are you?" There was a long pause, and then the voice spoke again. "I am the guardian of Elaris, the keeper of its ancient magic. You have awakened me, Elara." "I didn't mean to," she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "I don't even know how I got here." "You were drawn to this place because of who you are," the guardian replied. "You are not like the others. The magic of Elaris flows through you, and it has called you to fulfill a great purpose." Elara shook her head, her mind reeling. "I don't understand. What purpose? What am I supposed to do?" "The balance of Elaris is in danger," the guardian said gravely. "A darkness is rising, one that seeks to consume the magic of this land and plunge it into eternal night. You are the one who must stop it." "But how?" Elara asked. her voice barely above a whisper. "You will find the answers you seek in time," the Guardian replied, "but you must be strong, for the path ahead will not be easy." The void began to fade, and the forest slowly returned to Elara's vision. She found herself standing once more before the ancient stone, her hand still resting on its surface. The energy she had felt moments before had dissipated, leaving her feeling drained and uncertain. As she made her way back to the village, the Guardian's words echoed in her mind. "A darkness is rising." She couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just been irrevocably changed, that she was now a part of something far greater than herself. But what could she, a simple woodsman's daughter, do against a force that threatened to consume the entire land? The question haunted her as she walked, and she knew that there was no turning back. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it, for she had no other choice. Part 2. The gathering storm days passed, and Elara could not forget the encounter in the forest. The Guardian's words haunted her, gnawing at the edges of her thoughts, even as she tried to return to the normalcy of her life in Windworld. But normalcy was elusive, and the world around her seemed to shift in subtle, disquieting ways. The sky grew darker with each passing day, even when the sun was at its peak. The animals in the forest grew restless, their usual patterns disrupted by an unseen force. The villagers whispered of strange occurrences, crops withering overnight, wells running dry, and a chill in the air that seemed unnatural for the time of year. Elara knew that these were signs of the darkness the Guardian had spoken of, and with each new omen, her sense of urgency grew. But she felt lost, uncertain of where to begin or what she could do to prevent the impending catastrophe. Her father, noticing her distress, tried to comfort her. "You've always been a strong girl, Elara," he said one evening as they sat by the fire. "Whatever it is that's troubling you, you'll find a way through it." Elara smiled weakly, grateful for his words, but knowing that he could never truly understand the weight she carried. She hadn't told him about the Guardian or the darkness. Some part of her feared that the speaking of it would make it all too real. That night, as she lay in bed, Elara's thoughts turned to the stories her father used to tell her when she was a child. Tales of ancient heroes who had wielded powerful magic to protect Elaris from the forces of evil. She had always loved those stories, but they had seemed like nothing more than fanciful legends, far removed from the world she knew. But now, those legends felt closer than ever, and Elara wondered if there was truth to them. If the Guardian was real, then perhaps the heroes of old had been real too. And if they had fought against the darkness before, then maybe she could find a way to do the same. The next morning, Elara made a decision. She would seek out the truth behind the legends. There had to be someone in Elaris who knew more about the ancient magic. Someone who could help her understand the role she was meant to play. With a newfound sense of purpose, Elara packed a small bag with provisions and set out on her journey. She didn't know where she was going, but she trusted that the magic of the land would guide her, just as it had led her to the ancient stone in the forest. As she left Windworld behind, Elara felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. She had never traveled far from the village before, and the world beyond its borders was a mystery to her. But she knew that she couldn't stay in the safety of her home while the darkness threatened to consume everything she loved. Her journey took her through dense forests, across rolling hills, and along winding rivers. She encountered other travelers along the way, merchants, farmers, and wanderers who spoke of the same strange occurrences she had witnessed in Winwald. The darkness was spreading, and fear was growing in the hearts of the people. One evening, as she made camp by a quiet stream, Elara was approached by an old woman, wrapped in a tattered cloak. The woman moved with a grace that belied her age, and her eyes gleamed with a sharp intelligence. "You're far from home, child," the woman said, her voice soft but commanding. Elara nodded, unsure of how much to reveal. "I'm searching for answers," she said cautiously, "about the darkness that's spreading across the land." The old woman studied her for a long moment before nodding. "I thought as much. You carry a burden that is not yours alone to bear." She settled herself by the fire, her movements fluid despite her years. "I'm an on called Lysandra, and I know more about this darkness than most." Elara felt a surge of hope. "Can you help me? The Guardian spoke to me in the forest. It said I had a role to play, but I don't know what to do." Lysandra's expression grew serious. "The Guardian of Elaris only speaks to those who are destined for great things. If it has chosen you, then the task ahead is indeed perilous. But you are not without allies." Elara leaned forward, eager to hear more. "Who are these allies? Where can I find them?" Lysandra smiled faintly. "Patience, child, all in due time. There are others like you, scattered across Elaris. They too have been called by the magic of this land, though they may not yet understand their purpose. You must find them and bring them together. Only united can you hope to stand against the darkness." Elara's heart sank at the thought of yet another journey, but she knew that Lysandra was right. "Where should I start?" The old woman gazed into the flames, her eyes reflecting the flickering light. "The first of your allies can be found in the city of Eldhaven, far to the north. He is a scholar, a man who has spent his life studying the ancient texts and forgotten lore of Elaris. His knowledge will be invaluable to you." Elara nodded, committing the name to memory. "Eldhaven. I'll go there first." Lysandra reached into the folds of her cloak and produced a small, intricately carved amulet. She handed it to Elara. "Take this. It will guide you when the path is unclear and protect you from the dark forces that seek to stop you." Elara accepted the amulet with reverence, feeling its warmth against her palm. "Thank you, Lysandra. I won't forget your help." The old woman's smile deepened. "Remember, Elara, that strength lies not only in magic, but in the bonds you forge with others. Do not face this journey alone." The next morning, Elara set out for Eldhaven, her determination renewed. The road ahead was long, but she now had a clear destination and a sense of purpose. As she walked, she clutched the amulet that Lysandra had given her, feeling its comforting presence.